This is built to deliver a show for anyone building digital products, leading teams, or trying to get quality work out of the door.
Between us, we've worked across product, delivery, and transformation, and now we're sharing tools and techniques that have worked in the real world.
Every episode, we plan to cut through the theory and give you actionable takeaways that you can put into your work tomorrow. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about burnout. It's a topic that some people try to avoid, but it's really important to address on a human level to make sure that people are happy, you've got an engaged team and your people want to be doing what they're doing. And that always leads to better overall team dynamic, better productivity, and just an overall better world for everyone involved. So we want to talk about burnout today. It's not the most commonly talked about theme amongst especially men. I think sometimes people try and cover it up and hide it, and that's really what we're going to be digging into now. So, Kiran, I mean, what does burnout mean to you, and how have you ever noticed it in other people? How would you address it?
Yeah, I think burnout for me, I think it means, well, not about what it means, but I'll tell you how I feel. So, when I feel like I am more snappy, particularly with my kids, right? When I feel like I've got so much work to do, I'm rushing around trying to do everything at once, and I'm ignoring the things that actually matter, which are family and friends, the people around me. For me, that's a sign of burnout. So for me, that's being snappy. For me, it's not paying attention to the things that I need to pay attention to. I think...
Here we go.
Oh, guys, come on! All right, we're definitely cutting this piece out, right? I thought you were about to stand up and walk out the room. But yeah, so when I'm not able to spend time with the people that I want to spend time with, it means I'm taking too much on in my day job, right? I think other signs, aside from being stressed and being snappy, is probably when I'm making mistakes. I do try and do a really thorough job in most things that I do. I try to prepare well in advance. But when I'm taking on too much, I trip up, right? So last week at work, I was in quite a few meetings. I prepared for most of them, but I was very stuttery and I wasn't quite on the top of my game. And I think that's because I did so much the week before, the few weeks before that, that it just all piled upon me. So I think to summarize, burnout for me is when I'm probably stressed, a bit snappy with the people that I shouldn't be, and when I start making mistakes.
And I think that's really powerful to be able to recognize it within yourself, because I think quite often people don't really. I know certainly for me it's happened in the past where I've been burnt out without really knowing it at the time. But Charan, what about you? Have you got any telltale signs where you notice other people might be either burnt out or getting close to?
Before other people, though, about yourself, because I'm really keen to know that.
Probably in a similar vein to you, I tend to do a lot of different things, and I tend to spread my energy across multiple different things. And what I notice when I'm burnt out is that some of the habits that I have, and probably this has been going on for a couple of years, or maybe I am burnt out right now, is that some of the kind of things that I would prioritize from a personal perspective, from a spiritual, emotional point of view, I'm not doing anymore. So for example, I pray, I meditate, I sleep well, I go to the gym. If I notice that those things aren't prioritized, I'm not doing them, I know I'm burnt out. So for right now as well, as a reflection, I'm not doing any of those things, or I'm not doing them consistently, or I'm doing them as a tick box rather than as something that is like an investment of time that's worthwhile. So for me, if I'm not doing those things and I'm going from place to place and I'm doing things from one task to the other and I'm bouncing around quite a bit, then I feel like I'm burnt out. But at the same time, I often choose not to address it right now because I feel like it's a worthwhile investment and a worthwhile pain to take on board now to benefit from that stuff later. Even though tomorrow isn't promised, to be really, really deep about it. But that's the way that I'm seeing things, and that's the way I tend to see things.
I should come and hug you now, right?
Proper emotional. Nah, I'm good.
Oh, he actually is?
Nah, I'm good. Yeah.
Which is fine. But
and that's really interesting to hear you both talk about that, because I I'll start on the opposite end of the spectrum of where I've noticed it in other people, because I've only just noticed it in myself recently for the first time.
I know I've seen you ages ago.
What's that?
So he said he's noticed burnout in you ages ago.
Yeah,
We'll come
yeah.
back to that.
Yeah.
And that's part of this conversation, right? Is when I said to you right at the start, it's quite powerful to recognise it in yourself. The reason I say that is, on reflection, I can look back to other times in my life and think, oh my word, I was so burnt out there, but I didn't know at the time. I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know, anything around that. So I think it's good to recognise it within yourself. But if I think about others to start with, I think it can be just such basic things like little behavioural changes. Maybe if you're on a remote team, they're putting their webcam on less and less, they're contributing less and less to meetings, they're not being as involved in the team dynamic, they're not maybe being as productive as they can be. And don't get me wrong, there's many reasons that can be that. It's not just, okay, that person is definitely burnt out because of this reason. But we're talking about how we could recognise it, right? What are the telltale signs that someone might be getting burnt out? I'll circle back to myself to think. So I know I've been burnt out in the past in a previous career path when I was doing 100-hour weeks, and that's quite a physical and mental burnout, right? And it's easy to see. Okay, I was doing long hours. I wasn't doing much for myself. It was all work, work, work. And I recognised that burnout quite easily. But the burnout in this career path was actually almost the opposite of that. So I was working at a company. I think they were quite early on their kind of transformation journey and getting that maturity in terms of ways of working. And a lot of us put in a lot of hard effort and made some really good kind of tangible steps in the right direction. And we were all really happy. We were all kind of on a hype about the direction things were going in. And then a couple of things changed very quickly that pretty much reversed it all. And as almost a side effect of that, it meant that there wasn't as much for us to do because we weren't pushing for that transformation, which was a lot of the time and energy we were doing. So I found I was working a lot less, and I didn't realise that would lead to burnout because I was just less engaged about what I was doing. I didn't care about it as much anymore. I've been very fortunate in my career so far to really care about pretty much every product and every team I've ever worked on. I get a sense of pride and a real I don't know, I get something from it when I know I'm pushing towards something that matters. And that was the first time realistically that I didn't have that. And as I say, I was working a lot less, and I didn't realise that was leading to burnout because I just didn't care about what I was doing. But I didn't realise that at the time until way after, when I'd kind of broken out of that and got into a better mind state to think I was burnt out back then.
You're going to get a court case now when they find out which company you're talking about.
It won't be any big mystery if anyone knows where I've worked. It certainly won't be any big mystery. So you two both did a great job about talking about yourselves, and I kind of touched very briefly on others. But is there any telltale signs that you guys have noticed about other people where, whether they notice it themselves or not, but you're starting to pick up on signs of oncoming or current burnout?
So I think from a team point of view, it's often very, very obvious because people are working really long hours. So one of the kind of telltale signs actually is like in one of the previous roles I was in, we were focusing on a specific team for the first time. So me and the delivery manager for the team. And we came out of the retro and that person had just taken over the team. We came out of the retro and we were like, nobody said anything. The planning in the retro, nobody said anything. Nobody really gave any strong opinions. You all, there's no energy here. But also, everyone looks really depressed. And then we talked to a few people and we said, are you okay, personally? Are you okay? As a one-on-one conversations, just as an observation outside of this. And I think some of the answers that you got back, oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good. And then just crack on with it. And those type of things are really telling in a team because they're giving you just an answer that isn't right. They're not fine because of the way they've interacted, the way that they've communicated to you, and they're just saying that, yeah, actually I am okay because they feel like that's what you want to hear. So as a leader, I think it's really important to see those signs in other people and probably let people know that it's okay not to be okay. And also when you're feeling that way and you feel like it's a like product of the way of working, the team, the culture, it is really important to say it, to address it, and also to make sure that things are done to correct it. Because at the end of the day, not to be like really cliche, it's only work, and the people are way more important.
I think just to touch upon a very quick example of when I've seen burnout. So a while ago, I used to travel to the office quite often, and when I first joined this company, there was a guy who was always very smiley, very happy, very jolly, right? Always talking to everyone. And then he was in his discipline. He was the GOAT, like he was very good, right? And everyone used to go to him. He got promoted to be a team lead. And then ultimately what happened was most of the teams that needed that discipline, that skill set, even though they had that discipline within their teams, most of those people were juniors. So they would always go to this main guy. And from a period of 6 months when he was so happy and he was calm and content in his work, he started to stay in the office later and later and later to 6, 7, 8 p.m. sometimes when I was there as well. And I'd walk in one day and he was just so down, and that smile was gone. Him as a human being, he just wasn't the same as 6 months ago. And he was great at his job, but he couldn't say no. And I think saying no is one of the biggest, is one of the hardest things to do, right? But it's one of the most powerful things. And
Absolutely.
he couldn't say no to the people beneath him that he was supporting. He couldn't say no that I can't help you right now. He couldn't say no to other project managers or scrum masters, whoever it may be, to say, can you come and support our team? He wouldn't say no because it's his nature to help, but he wasn't doing that. And I think to rectify that, essentially, it was emails being sent to his management to say, hey, there's a hearts and minds piece here, right? Like your employee is not.
It's like a well-being thing,
Your
like
well-being
ethical,
thing,
like,
exactly.
yeah.
He's overloaded. I'm leaving the office at 6, 7 p.m. He's always there. He's the first in. You can clearly see he's not the same person that he used to be.
You have a responsibility.
The responsibility of care, absolutely,
Yeah.
right? And especially in leadership positions, or even just as a teammate, when you have that empathetic side of you, where you can see someone, you can say, "Hey, something's not right." Speaking out is always the right thing to do.
Yeah, and like you say, maybe people don't always feel empowered to speak up themselves. If you notice those signs in others, then it's your responsibility to address them and make sure that something's been done to correct it.
So let's stick true to the theme of the show then. How can we help anyone who's watching this show who might notice burnout in others but doesn't know what to do about it? What are some practical steps they can take to bring awareness to it, to address it, to alleviate that?
In my opinion, there's two really extreme things. So one is be empowered to speak up about it. Two, if you don't feel like you are empowered to speak up about it, it's probably not the right organization, the right culture. So get out as quickly as you can. Because there's things that are more important than a workplace. And if people don't care about you as a person, they don't care about your well-being, then from my point of view, it's not somewhere where I would want to work, and I don't want other people to work there either. And I think those are the most important and powerful things that you could embed.
I think you're right when you say it's the extremes, right? Yeah. But ultimately, I agree with you. If we were to take it back a little bit, I would say speak to that person, right? Or if they don't want to speak to you about it, make sure that you're highlighting your observations and then give them time to reflect upon it, and then maybe just report it up to the management chain because they may not want to do it, right? I think just having an option to speak to someone and making sure that person knows, hey, we can chat about it, I think is always powerful. But ultimately, I think I agree with your point that if that doesn't work, then you need to look after yourself and cut.
Yeah. I think that there's potentially still a bit of stigma around it, right? And I think part of the power that we can have as individuals is removing that as best as we can and saying that we accept it, we know it happens, you don't need to feel ashamed about how you're feeling, acknowledging the constraints that they're facing. And I think probably with that, we'll good time to move on, I think.
Yeah, I think that was good. Well done.
A bit more heartfelt than normal. But...
Yeah. Okay.
No, that was great.
Cried at that point.
Say it again.
Felt like I could have cried.
You see, this is one of those things, right, where people try and mask their feelings and emotions by jokes and humor, right? So it's okay. I'm with you. I see you, and it's okay.
How are you feeling lately?
Cool.
You are probably a little burnt out, though. Do you reckon?
100%.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, I'm actively burnt out.
You're
where,
acknowledging it.
I
and
know I'm burnt out.
it's
but
a
I'm
risk
choosing
that you're willing
yeah.
to take right now.
Which probably isn't like the best thing to do, but I'm doing it actively.
But what? So do you have essentially an escape plan for that? Is there going to come a point
Yeah.
in time? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So should we talk about that a little then, even just at a very high level? So because I know, as I say, I've worked in the past where it was more about the hours and as a consequence the mental load. But
Yeah.
I loved it and I knew I was getting a bit burnt out, but I wanted to carry on doing it. So what's
So for me, like I said earlier, I'll invest in the time, the extra effort, the multiple things I'm doing on the side, my day job. I'll do all of that stuff, and I'll do it really intense, and I'll do it to like the best of my ability, at the expense of my like well-being in a way, where like I know that I'm not going to the gym as much, I'm not going to like meditate, pray and things. I'm going to correct that actually, to be fair. So I'm not doing it to the point where I know that this is something I want to sustain for like X amount of years. I'm talking about like weeks or months. I'll put up with it for a bit and I'll correct myself.
Cool. All right. Ship it or scrap it. Sticking with the theme of burnout. We've got a couple of takes, and let's get your thoughts on it. Right. So the first one for ship it or scrap it is retros in a pub or going outside on a sunny day.
I'll kick this off then. I am 100% going to ship this. Not necessarily that it has to be in a pub, because I think you have to be careful to not alienate people. But the point is, sometimes taking people out of that work setting and into a different environment, you can get better, get a better dynamic between them, get them thinking differently, get them comfortable. Yeah, I'm 100% on board for outside on a sunny day. Why not? Like it's. Yeah, I could not be more in support of shipping.
Brilliant. Chaz?
Yeah, I laughed because we did pie in a pint, or as many as you could get away with before going back to work.
On a team full of Muslims as well, to be fair, who all came with and all enjoyed it.
So they all came with us, and we were trying to be as inclusive as possible, where that was a one-off maybe, or something we did weekly. But then we became really mindful because, no, but I'm saying we became really mindful because everybody wanted to be around the team, because it was a great culture that we embedded actually, and the team embedded. So everybody wanted to be there, but we didn't want to alienate people, like you say. So it started off with pie in a pint because it's simple, it's easy, people will come, it's an incentive. But because they had come to that, and like people that, like you say, are maybe Muslim, they don't drink alcohol or whatever the situation might be, they still wanted to be around us as people, and us as people were like, it's not fair for them to only do that. So let's think about other things as well. So we'd go out for food in the evening, we'd go to restaurants, this is when we were living in Leeds, so we'd go to Bradford, and we'd just make sure that we're getting to know people outside of work. We were graduates at the time, so we were living away from like our normal home, but people on the team were like magnets, I think, to the energy of the team. So I would ship it for that reason.
Great. And I don't need long for this. I think if the culture doesn't allow you to do this, something so simple to go outside, do a retro outside of a work setting, it's the wrong place. I see no reason why anybody would scrap this. Right?
Yeah,
so
I agree.
For me, I would ship it.
I think that's the first time in the show's long and illustrious history that we've all agreed on a point. We've all had the same thing, right? So,
I think so. Yeah.
So
First time ever,
maybe that's
3
the
months.
takeaway right here then, is to look at maybe just how you can change up some of those types of meetings, right?
Yeah.
And not have it mundane, always in the same room, always have it the same format. What can you do to keep things fresh and engaging?
100%.
Took us 3 months to get here.
Yeah. The next one, what do you think about team building activities?
Yeah, so I'm going to choose to ship this with a very strong caveat that it's not just for the sake of doing it. I think if you've got a really targeted session that is going to address gaps in the communications in your team and in the team dynamic, I think team building, when done correctly, is extremely powerful. If you're just doing it for the sake of thinking, maybe we need to do some team building activity, maybe, allow it. But if there's a specific case for it, then 100% I'm behind it.
Cool, Chaz?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to ship it as well, but I think you have to be really selective. I think we were talking when we were going through this episode yesterday. I used to love it, and no, not so much, because I have more responsibility now, and I have more on my plate, I feel. So it's harder to, and it's really important to, where you can join these activities and make sure you're doing it. But for it to be mandatory is where I would say maybe rethink it. But I would ship it just because it's important, it's valuable. If you've got the time, do it. Make the time for it as well if you can. But there shouldn't be an expectation that you have to do it. And it's not because you don't want to communicate with the team, you don't want to do those team building exercises. They're really important. But if they're really frequent and it's at the expense of other things, it maybe is not worth it. But I'll ship it.
Again, I completely agree, right? And I think what you said there is super key. If it's a mandatory team building activities, then I'm fully against it, because although it might be done with good intent, we should be cautious about having the reverse effect, right? And contributing to burnout, right? Because some people might just want to take that time to be by themselves, to chill, right? And not go out and do something else, right? And it's not about being antisocial. It's just about knowing what's right for your team. So if you can read your room, read your team well enough, then I think great. But if it's mandatory, then no.
But if it's at the pub, then always, yes.
But
Always,
we're on a
yes.
roll, guys. That's 2 in a row.
2 in a row.
We're all on
okay.
board with a heavy caveat, but
Yeah.
same caveat.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think we're onto
good.
something here.
Let's see if we get 3 out of 3.
Let's see.
So the last one is blocking out focus time in your calendars. Shaz.
So I'll ship it. I think it's really important, especially if you're back-to-back meetings all the time. I think the risk is that the focus time gets written over anyway because everyone's busy. So
All
it
the
doesn't
time.
really matter. Nobody's going to say, actually, to be fair, I will see focus time in people's calendars and be like, maybe I should avoid that time. Let's look at other slots. If there's not a slot, I might still write over it because there has to be a conversation or a compromise somewhere. But if there's other slots available and that's focus time, I'll definitely avoid it. So I would ship it for that reason.
I'm going to ship it as well. I think far too often you see it where it's day to day, seems to be meetings all day. You don't really have the time to do your work. I think it can work particularly powerful if everyone's on the same focus time. Not always possible, but if you have like maybe Thursday and Friday afternoon for argument's sake, where you just know you do not schedule meetings in that time and you respect that rule. Obviously pick whatever works for that circumstance, but if you actually can respect it and it doesn't keep getting written over, I'm 100%, I'm shipping.
Just one thing to say
focus
before
time.
Kiran comes on his point. We'll come back to when we go do Manual of Me, we'll look at that because one of the things we're going to be talking about is working times. And you said if everyone's at the same time, but that's probably not always the case, or probably very rarely the case that everyone have the same working preferences and working times. So that might be a reason why it's not possible. Ideally, yeah, but probably not common.
Yeah, fair. And I think for the first time ever, we got 3 out of 3. I'm shipping it. I've recently tried to embed this focus time across groups of people, and it never works because people have different working patterns or people work in different teams, so it's really difficult to do. But I would say the general principle of you looking after yourself to block out some time to think or to actually do the work, right? 'Cause
thinking time is
a lot of the time people are in just meetings. That's not doing the work, right? You might be contributing to it, but it's not you getting down to do the thing. That focus time could well be just to actually get the job done, right?
Yeah.
So in principle, yep, ship it. 3 out of 3. I'm happy with that. Yeah.
There we go.
Lovely.
But that does, I think, just before we move on, it does come with the caveat that I've also seen it in places where you might say, okay, everyone's afternoon from 2 till 5, we don't book meetings. And then people think, okay, well, we're not booking meetings, but I can never get hold of that person, so I'll get him at 2:30 because I know he's
absolutely.
not got meetings on.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wider cultural thing, rather than just within the team. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good specifying that though, isn't it? Because it could just be an hour's focus time or 2 hours, but
And-
if it's every week for like Friday from 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock or something, that's sketchy as hell, right? And you don't want to be doing that, right?
Yeah.
So there's caveats to it, and it's building that environment where people trust that you'll still be responsive, right?
Yeah.
But just to respect it a little bit more.
Cool.
Great. Okay, let's get the laptops out. It's Manual of Me.
Okay, so we've talked about burnout. We've talked about what burnout means to us. We've talked about identifying burnout in the teams. So now this is a practical takeaway and something we can do to identify burnout and address it as well. And this is a exercise called Manual of Me. So this is kind of self-explanatory, but Manual of Me is what when it comes to me is important for the team to know to help them understand the way I work best and the way I am as a person generally as well, actually, to be fair. So the things we're going to be talking about is communication, how I work best, what I care about, what I struggle with, what I'm proud of, how to work with me, quick facts, working hours. But we're not going to get the opportunity to talk about all of them in depth. But it's a really great exercise to do if you want to understand your teammates better and you want to have a conversation about how to get the most out of each other as well. So what we'll talk about is communication, how I work best, what I struggle with, and working hours, just because those are the ones that we shortlisted. We did a bit of an exercise to vote on what's most important to us, so we'll talk about that. This will also be really helpful for us who are now 3 months into a podcast setup, and we want to, I think we're still forming in a way. We're probably, we've done a bit of storming, we started to norm, and we want to perform, right? So this will help us get to know each other a little bit better in a working setting. Me and Patrick worked together before, me and you've gone to school together, but as a group, this is the first time we're doing this, right? So we've, outside of this, set these templates and we filled them in individually. We'll talk about these areas and we'll maybe have a bit of a discussion about them, yeah? If you don't feel comfortable talking about things more specifically, feel free not to. But if you think that things are really important and we need to know about them, then let's have that conversation. This is a bit vulnerable, probably. We're putting this out there. So share what you feel comfortable sharing and just be as open as you feel like you want to be. Yeah.
I think just to preface it a little bit, we've set the culture and the ethic between us as a team to say, be as open and constructive and criticize as openly as you can, and we won't take it personally. So I think we've set those boundaries. We've been really clear that we're open to it because we know the intent isn't to hurt you or to hurt you.
Yeah.
The intent is to figure out how best we can work with each other, how best we can bounce off each other to deliver something decent, right?
Yeah.
I think that helps that we're friends on a personal level. Outside of this, like we get on, right? So it's
but friends don't always work well together, right?
Yeah,
and I think this is so good to get into.
What I mean is our dynamic might be different to a bunch of people who you only met through work, who you only work with.
I think also as well, when it's friends, you'll give more like leeway, in my opinion, where like you wouldn't stand for things usually maybe you might do with friends. But maybe that's a conversation point generally as well, because if you get to know colleagues on a friend level, you feel like you get to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you get to like counter them in a way, and maybe bring more in one area because you know they're bringing more in another. So like again, like manual of me is a good exercise to do to tease that stuff out. So let's get into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So I don't want to start because I'm facilitating. I'll choose not to. So
Is that how it works?
yeah, 100%.
Are you not going to lead by example? No? Okay.
Not this time.
Go on. What do you want me to talk about then? Where are we
Do
starting?
you want to start with you? Go on then. So Patrick, communication.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. So I'll zoom in on me here. Similar to what we just talked about there. Excuse me. Even within the friendship group, is open and honest. For me, I would rather let's get fairly straight to the point, and let's not try and cover things up and make things seem like it's not really how it is. Let's just be open and honest. Basically, that really helps for me. In terms of how to communicate with me as well, by far, the quickest reply, and you guys will have seen this, especially recently, the quickest reply you're going to get from me is phone me. I'll answer the phone if I can. If I'm unavailable for whatever reason, I'll call you back at my first opportunity. If you message me, I will get back to you when I can. It will be later. And if you email me or something, I might see it.
So I tried to go by this, but what you get from Patrick when you try and call him is 0. Please,
Do I not have a voicemail set?
leave a message. That's what it says. Please leave a message after the tone, and then later on the day, probably we'll get back to you. To be fair,
Yeah. But compared to if you send me a message, do I always get back to you that day?
no.
With a phone call, that's by far for me the best way.
Yeah, fair.
If you need a quick reply, if it's something that's not important, send me a message, and that's it.
That's
for
good
me.
to know, though. And to
Yeah.
be fair, like we know each other, so I know that as
Yeah,
well.
you guys, I made that clear up front because I don't want you guys to send me a message and expect me to get back that same day when I know full well
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to get back to you that same day. If you call me, sure. If I
So-
can't answer there and then, I'll get back to you as
So
soon as I can.
let's stay on the topic of communication. Let's talk about Kiran.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I like it when people are direct with me, right? If you think I'm doing a bad job, if you think I'm not doing the right thing, if I'm not achieving outcomes that I'm supposed to, tell me, because there's no other way I'm going to get better. And you guys probably know by now, I put everything in the work that I do, and I want to be doing a good job.
100%.
Right? I think honestly goes without saying, I think I prefer over communicating than under communicating, right? I think, of course, there's a time to be a bit more reserved and to say less, but I always think over communication is better. But I think the key one for me here is I prefer timely responses. And in our situation with us working in this group for the first time, I've never worked with you guys. We're trying to set up a podcast. You prefer phone calls. If we want quick responses or timely responses, I don't think we get that from a quick phone call. I think sending instant messages as you hear it, that's the quickest way of communication rather than a phone call from my perspective. So yeah, if I'm relying on someone just to give me responses via phone call, if I need an answer there and then, for me it's not quick enough.
So I think I agree in principle, but where in that example you gave that a phone call isn't where you get a quick response, it's probably because we're not being direct enough with each other. If you were to specifically, I try and do this, I'll try and be as specific as possible and say like, this is what we need to focus on. So what's your answer to this question? I think if we were to do that in a phone call, it's still going to be quicker than trying to do it in messages. But the problem is that we don't always do that when we have calls because we start talking about other things and we have to try and bring each other back, which is natural. Maybe we're still trying to learn how each other works. But I can't remember exactly what the like theory is behind it, but there's something about being face to face with people where body language is known, and like that's a powerful kind of avenue. There's something about communication verbally which is more powerful than communication over text as well. So I think communication over a call, if you want to get something out of somebody, is still more useful as long as we're direct on what we want.
But maybe I could clarify a bit to help our dynamic moving forward a bit as well, is if there's stuff going on in the messages that I've not seen and you're expecting a response from, even if it is a call to say check your messages, absolutely fine for me. I will then know to go and check my messages.
Okay.
I've been very conscious recently to spend less time on my phone. I realised I was spending way too much time on my phone without even realising it, which is why I put screen time limits on and stuff like that, which is why I'm very targeted with when I check my messages. So if it's something that's popping off, I'm probably not going to see it at the time. So as I say, if it's a phone call to say, do you mind checking your messages quickly? I'll check them there.
A slight deviation, but I think it's really important. One of the things that I've been doing recently, and it's kind of related, but is a digital detox. So I've been putting my phone downstairs while I sleep in my room, because I know for a fact that if I've got my phone in my room, I'll be checking it during the night. I'll wake up and I'll stare a little bit and I'll be like, oh, I haven't got any messages. Is there something I'm supposed to reply to? What's the time? Like all of these different things. So I think generally speaking, it's a bit of a side note, but the digital and the kind of the expectation that we have to like instantly reply to people at the moment is not healthy. So I'm trying to remove myself from it at nighttime because I know for a fact it's affecting me. So I think knowing these type of things is important.
And I know it's a book that you've read as well, but if we're trying to give practical takeaways, I think a book that quite honestly has changed my life is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
I believe is a gentleman. Really helpful if you maybe have some bad habits, but you don't know how to address them, you don't know how to recognize them. I know for sure that since, before I started that book, compared to now, there's way more habits than I even realised I had that I've now addressed, that I'm being much more healthy with how I spend my time, with how I'm kind of behaving in general.
Just for people that haven't heard of that book, what is the general gist of that book? If you can just say it in like 10 seconds or something.
Yeah, okay. So it's a bit more complex maybe in terms of recognising them, but once you've recognised them, we'll skip to there and how to address them. Basically, what you want to do is make your bad habits very hard to do, or make them impossible, is I believe what he says, and incentivize your good habits. I'm probably going to have a better think. If I can come back to that, I'll formulate.
I can add to that. So I think the main takeaway that I have from that specific book is habit stacking. So I think he quantifies it in some sort of way, and he says, if you have a bad habit, you basically. So if you're in good habits, it takes X amount of time to basically have a bad habit, basically. But if you're having bad habits, if you then to try and train that into a good habit and stack habits on top of it, so I have a concept for stacking habits, you can basically build good habits on top of good habits. So, for example, the analogy I would give is the first step is to wake up at 6 a.m. That's a good habit. Don't do anything else. Just wake up at 6 a.m. The second thing to do is after you wake up at 6 a.m., have breakfast. That's like stacking a habit on top of a good habit. Have breakfast at 6 a.m. Then you've got up at 6 a.m., you've had breakfast, and you want to stack another good habit on top of that. Go to the gym. Then you go to the gym and you're back home before 8 o'clock, for example. That's habit stacking. So you build good habits on top of good habits. That's the main takeaway from me, is that it becomes a lot simpler. It's a good building block and it allows you to move from bad habits to good habits if you take that approach. But on the kind of flip side, if you're in good habits, it's a lot easier to start building bad habits, and it takes longer to... It's a lot quicker basically to build bad habits than it is to build good habits, and that's the main thing.
And I know that we're not trying to dive too deep and give a full book review right here, but in terms of practical takeaways, I think to just go a little deeper on what Charan said, so it might be okay. You finish your breakfast. What that action ends with is you put your cereal bowl in the dishwasher. That is your cue to then start the next good habit, which is to get your gym shoes on, to get your car keys. You know, it's about understanding those cues.
Habits.
So it's essentially
particularly the cues, because the thing that I didn't realise for me was, number one, I didn't realise how many bad habits I had.
Yeah.
But even once I started to recognise, I knew some of them, but I definitely didn't know all of them. Yeah. Is what causes you to start that bad habit. So one of them for me was having my phone in my pocket. Way too much time on my phone. Yeah. Simple thing, put the phone in a different room.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Yeah, go
because
on.
You two are doing communication.
Cool.
We won't dive too much into my communication, but I'm saying I prefer to communicate verbally, and I prefer to be direct. I feel like I'm really direct. If I have something to tell you, I tell you.
I agree.
And I prefer to do that verbally as well, rather than in messages, and I just feel like it's quicker. So do we want to talk about anything for each of our 3 communication topics? Should we move on?
No, I think let's go to the next one. Yeah.
So next one is how I work best.
Should we stick with you for this one?
Yeah, we can stick with me. So I think this is true in the workplace as well, and I think it's something that we tried to do yesterday when we were working through one of the topics.
Absolutely.
I prefer to swarm and solve problems together. So if you're facing a problem or I'm facing a problem, I will be much more productive if we swarm on it, and I bounce off your ideas, your creativity, like the perspective you bring, than if I was to just sit in a silo and try and do it myself. Or if you were to sit in a silo and do it myself, because I feel like there's a perspective I can bring. And I'm really motivated by ambitious goals. We might need to extend that. But I'm really motivated by ambitious goals, because if something is boring or it's too simple or it's not exciting for me, I'm not going to do it probably until the last minute. And then if I have to do it, I'll do it. Or I'll just not do it at all. And that's me, the way I work best. If you to set me something ambitious, I'll do it. And I'll make sure that 9 times out of 10, I never let you down. Sometimes I might, because something happens and it's just the way it's life. But 9 times out of 10, if I need to do something, I'll do it. But that ambition needs to be there.
Yeah. I think for me, the 2 that I'll touch upon very briefly is when there's clarity around outcomes, like what are the goals, what are the things that we are trying to achieve, what are the impacts it's going to have. Without that, the steps before it are quite difficult to put together, or we may be doing the wrong thing. And linking it to the second one there around when I believe I'm adding value. Like I said, I like to do a good job in everything that I do. But if I'm doing a good job at 100 things that are not related to the outcome, I'm not adding value.
Spending energy.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I think understanding what the goals are and how I'm directly contributing to that is when I'm performing at my peak.
Yeah, and I agree that having known you for a long time, I agree with that as well.
So in terms of how I work best then, similar to what you said, Charan, collaborating with others, freely sharing ideas. I don't want you to have a problem that you're suffering on silence in. Let's work on it together, even if it's not my problem, strictly speaking, it's our problem. Definitely happy to help out where I can, and grateful for any support I receive in that sense. What also really helps for me, we touched about it a little earlier, talking about my personal burnout, is having a purpose. I think I work much best if I know what I'm working towards, why it matters in the real world, and what difference does it make. I've definitely worked on products where it's a bit more disconnected to think, okay, well, how am I making people's lives better? So I definitely work better if I have that clear sight to the work that I'm doing right now. How is that making the world slightly better?
Cool. Should we stick with you and do what I struggle with?
Yeah, sure. So if I move down to what I struggle with then, personally, something that I've spent a lot of time working on, and I think I've got a lot better at, but still need a lot of work on, is going off on tangents and getting distracted. A personal thing, you guys have all felt it, right?
What, that you get distracted and you go off time? No, never. No, not at all.
See, the thing with tangents is, yeah, it's just
I
something
do
that I've
that
always
as well,
done.
though. But I feel like there's a bit of a skill or an art, and I'm not saying I do it all like perfectly all the time. Like I probably 80% of the time I can do it well, but it's like identifying that and making sure that you still get the outcome that you need to get, even if you run on a tangent. Because if in my opinion, if you've run on a tangent, it's your fault, so it's your responsibility to make sure that you still achieve the outcome.
Yeah, and that's the exact skill set that I have been working on. I need to continue working on because I'm not quite there yet with it. So definitely, if you notice me going off on a tangent and I'm talking about things that aren't relevant, or we're getting bogged in the wrong kind of detail, bring me back on track. Absolutely happy with that. That's one of the things I struggle with. Another thing, I've never been interested in the office politics and the gossip that's going around. Miss me with that. I don't want to hear about I don't want to hear about if this person said that thing about that person. I don't want to be involved in it. I make a conscious effort to have as much headspace as I can, and I'm not trying to fill it with gossip.
But when it comes to coming back to an earlier segment, when you're talking about burnout, one of the kind of key signs of burnout more generally in a team is that specific thing.
That's
Office
a fair
politics
point.
and gossip. That is a clear sign for me that there's something wrong with the team, because they're talking about each other. They're not talking to each other. They're not addressing it in the open.
Yeah.
But there's things happening in the background that not everybody's aware of, and that is a really terrible sign from my perspective.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Maybe I need to be more mindful of how I deal with that rather than just trying to swerve
Yeah,
it
don't
completely.
ignore it.
And I wouldn't say I ignore it. I don't get involved. If I hear someone talking about someone, I'll try and link those people up and I'll try and work through that issue. But I'm not going to contribute.
Sometimes
to
it's a wider. It's not immediately resolvable just by getting two people together.
Agreed.
It's a wider cause.
Agreed.
So,
I guess what I'm trying to say with this is, if you want to bitch about someone, don't expect me to join in.
yeah, 100%. I agree.
To engage with the conversation and take it further. Yeah.
I'll note it and I'll be aware of what's going on, but I'm not going to then start piling on top of, oh yeah, they also did this. And,
Yeah.
But you know, in school, Kiran used to pass notes and like literally, he'd be like, "Oh, X, Y, and Z," and all of a sudden it was Chinese whispers.
He's grown since then.
Do you know what it is? Everyone has a past, right? And I've
grown.
grown
Yeah, that's
from
it.
my past mistakes.
I respect that.
He didn't really
Thanks for pointing it out.
He didn't really do that.
Go on then, Kieran, what do you struggle with?
Yeah, so again, some of mine are fairly linked. I'm just trying to find where mine is. Sorry, bear with me. Cool. Again, I won't go through everything. I'll talk about two of them. So, beating around the bush. I think this works both ways, with people beating around the bush with me.
Bush.
With
We're a PG show here.
with people. Oh god, let me reset. Hold on. Yeah, I struggle when people beat around
The topic.
the topic. Thank you. And they don't just tell me what they're thinking, but equally, in the past, I've done the same thing to others, and that's what I struggle with. And quite recently, someone at work, she said to me, "Kiran, just stop doing this. Stop beating around the bush. Tell me what I need to know." Right. And that's really helped me over the last 2 or 3 years to just be a little bit more direct, say what I want to say, and then we can deal with the consequences afterwards and the fallout from it afterwards, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I struggle when, again, linking it back to directness. And I think the other one that I want to talk about is people not feeling accountable for their work. I really struggle with that. So if everyone is different and everyone can work and act in the way they want to act. As an example, if we're working on a project together, but you're super laxed about doing something, and again, we can use this as personal experience, right? Mm-hmm. If you're really relaxed about doing something and you know we've got deadlines to meet, and I don't see that you're actively conscious about, hey, okay, we've got this deadline coming up or we need to do this thing, you're not taking accountability for your own actions and for your own progress. For me, I struggle with that because I do everything that I can to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I try to make sure everyone else is doing the right thing. So you'll see in our time working together, I'll put either regular reminders of these are the things that we want to achieve, or next week, this is the plan. These are the things that we want to try and do, right? So I do that quite often to try and act as a reminder for everyone else, but also for myself. So I struggle when people don't feel the same need to achieve to achieve the progress or to work at a certain pace.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for you. And going a little bit off topic and talking about myself a little bit, but one of the things that I think I do related to this is I tell you and I'm really open about the things that you shouldn't expect from me, I won't do, and I struggle with. And I think that's really important. So if you struggle with something and you know you're not going to do it, and you're open with it, we can come up with a plan to address it or balance it out in some other way.
Like with editing, like when you say,
Yeah, that's what I'm not doing.
I don't know how to do editing.
Not that I necessarily
Not interested
I don't
in
want
it.
to
You're not
do it.
interested,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not interested. So I don't want to do any of that. I think if you're open with this,
Yeah.
and whoever, like you, me, whatever, if I'm open with you, you know that that's something I'm not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But to find out 6 months later or 3 months later, when you expect me to have done the editing, that's not the right time. So I think that's really important, and it's good to call that out.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh, sorry.
This is me.
It's you, yeah.
Yeah. So the things that I struggle with is switching off after work. So in a project specifically, I think where there's a lot of burnout and I feel burnt out, I know for a fact I won't be switching off after work. I'll be thinking about it throughout the day, and I'll be thinking about it while I have a shower. Patrick, yeah, I think about it while I have a shower. I'll be doing it while I'm sleeping. Like all of this stuff is like clear signs for me that I'm not switching off after work, and probably I'm burnt out. But in a way, depending on the situation, that's a good thing as well, because I'll try and compensate during the working day. So I'll try and take more time away, because I know for a fact that I haven't been doing tasks necessarily, but I haven't been sleeping or watching TV or whatever, because I'm 24-hour period. I'm still thinking about work. So I'll try and take that away. And that's one of the things I struggle with. And the other thing that I struggle with is when people repeat the same points that have already been understood. I can't stand it. If something's already been understood by the team and they already know that the point's been made, there's no point in remaking it, because it's just a waste of time. And it's a waste of effort, energy, and it can be better spent elsewhere. And I really struggle with that.
Good shout. And then the last one is working hours.
Yeah.
I'll kick it off. You guys know by now, most of the people I work with know this as well. I am half asleep after 7:30, right? I cannot stay awake anymore.
So me and Patrick shouldn't have gone to the pub at 9
So,
o'clock.
yeah, yesterday you should not have gone to the pub, right? Because it pushed our meeting back quite late.
Yeah.
And like,
Tried to tell you.
I'm only
Shut up, bro.
I'm only 32 years old, right? I don't really know why I'm struggling, but I cannot.
Father of two.
Father,
Might be
yeah,
a
of course,
contributing factor.
it might be, right?
Now, you got a busy life, to be fair.
But I struggle to stay awake after
I
7:30
said to him
p.m.
as well, I was like, that's not fair on Kiran. He said,
Yo,
"Oh."
nah.
That didn't happen. That didn't happen. But yeah, so anytime after 7:30, I mean, I can work and I can, if I have to, do the work, but I'm not going to be at my best. I'm not going to be thinking clearly. I'm going to look like just really miserable, right? It's just not going to be the best version of me. I can wake up early, right? I'm used to waking up at 5,
I
6
didn't know
o'clock
that
in the
till
morning.
today, by the way.
What, that I can wake up early?
Nah, that
After 7:30?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I said, I can wake up.
Value of doing this exercise,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, and I can wake up early, right? Happy to wake up 5, 6 o'clock to work all the way up until 7:30. I'm good with that. I just can't work too late.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go, Patrick?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I think. So I've not necessarily put this down there. I've not necessarily put this down there, but I think just worth noting to piggyback off that. I tend to be not with it in the morning. Mornings are not my best time. I'll tend to start switching on properly around 11, 12 o'clock.
You know, one of
in
the
the
things, sorry
morning.
to interrupt you, but one of the things I said to piss at Patrick for doing, he used to work, because he used to stay with me a lot when we were in Leeds. So I used to have an apartment in Leeds and we were working there, and Patrick who lived in Preston, but he used to stay with me a lot and would wake up and would need to be out of the apartment. Like, so, sorry for interrupting you.
No,
We'd
you're
be out of
good.
the apartment for 7 o'clock or something. So we'd get up at 6, I'd shower, and I'll come out the shower, and Patrick's there, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? We need to leave in like 20 minutes or something. And he'd be like this. And he'd be like, I'm just coming around. So he'd like sit up, and I'm really unfamiliar with this, but he'd sit up and he'd just sit there for like 5 minutes while he tries to come.
Bro, your
Really?
flesh and blood does the exact same thing. Your sister does the
Nah.
exact same
Processing.
thing. She said we talked.
Nah.
She does the exact same thing.
So-
she even used the words "come around" before I
Nah.
did.
So
100%,
for me,
man.
it was like, this is really new that this Patrick, we need to leave in 20 minutes. And he's sitting there saying, I need to come around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my brain does not kick into gear early in the morning. Definitely not.
So I think so we've got a clash here with times, right? So how would we resolve this, right? So like I said, I can work past 7:30. You won't get the
Yeah.
best
So
version
I'm
of me.
with you,
So
but-
one second.
yeah.
So I can work past that, right? But I don't think it's fair for me to work past that every single time,
Sure.
right? And then I think you don't want to wake up early. Well, you can't wake up that early in the morning or work before 3 o'clock, right? So how do we work past this, right?
So my brain kicks into gear around 11 a.m. So I think we've got a window between 11 and 3. What I've said here.
That's the working day, though. That's the problem with us.
Yeah.
And with you in the future, soon.
Yeah. So between, I try and keep getting back to working hours specifically for this, between 3 and 8 o'clock UK time, I try and have as family time. Pick up my daughter from school.
Yep.
Partner gets home from work. Other daughter gets home from nursery. I have meetings in that time. No problem at all. You know, I appreciate 3 o'clock is early to finish the working day. I have no problems with that. But what I'm trying to say with this is pretty much any hours outside of that I can do and I will do if I need to. But yeah, later the better for me, as you guys know. I'm saying, should we have this meeting at 10 o'clock?
Ridiculous time sometimes.
There is a clash there, though, because I agree with Kiran. For me, I want to try and, like, come back to earlier. I know for a fact I'm not sleeping early enough, and one of the things, I'm doing too many things, and one of the things that we're doing is this podcast.
Yeah.
So, if I try and correct all these kind of habits that we're doing work too late, I need to try and bring them earlier. So, I can't really be jumping on calls at like 9, 10 o'clock because it's too late. Even like you're saying, like, it's better for me after 11. For me, if I want to get to the gym and I need to wake up at 6 a.m. for the gym, I need to be trying to get 8 hours sleep. I don't need 8 hours, 6 hours, say. So I need to be asleep, like knockout for 12, which means I need to probably be in bed for 11. So I can't be jumping on calls.
And winding down before that.
Yeah,
as well, right?
winding down way before. So I can't be jumping on calls at that time.
So I think what we're seeing from this conversation, I think we've done quite a good job of getting to know each other's, how to work with each other better.
Yeah.
But more is coming out as a result of this, right? So if I need to hop on a call at 6 a.m., I'll do it. No problem at all.
We need to make compromises with each other. And sometimes, like, we might need to jump on calls at 11. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
But just it's not the norm. It's the exception.
Yeah.
So we need to find a sweet spot that works,
Yeah.
right? We need to find common ground. And I think this is a really good example of...
And it's a really good exercise to tease this out as well for the people that are watching.
Yeah.
That's exactly
This is only 3 people, right? Imagine you've got a team of 8.
a whole team,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
That's exactly what I was trying to say, was that this is a good example of how we can have open, honest conversations. We've got direct clashes in how we want to work, but we know we need to make some compromises somewhere.
Maybe it's not ideal. Maybe we're not going to work perfectly because our working patterns are so different. But as long as it's as good as we can possibly do, given the constraints, and in this situation, the constraints are our working hours and or where we work best.
Yeah.
So I think with that in mind, it's a good place to wrap it up. We haven't gone through everything. From how would a team benefit from this point of view? You do this manual of me as one exercise in a way that you can maybe collaborate more effectively with each other in a way that you can get to know each other better. You'd probably talk through as many of these things as you could. Patrick, you've just moved
I've done it.
Okay. You probably would go through as many of these things as you possibly could to get to know each other better. You've heard the debate between us, and we've only talked about half of the things, but it is a really great way of getting to know each other, get to know what you're dealing with when it comes to each other, and how you can compromise. And I think that's the key word, and the most important thing is to compromise with each other, because not everybody's the same, and we're human, and no human is the same.
Yeah.
And I think despite knowing each other for quite some time now, I've learned things about both of you today, and I think you probably have about me, that is going to help us work better moving forward. We've never formally done this exact exercise. We talked about it maybe loosely, we touched on certain points, but we've never done this together and talked about the results, right?
And it always helps to have a few drinks.
Yeah.
Shout out to Carl.
Shout out to Carl, the Birmingham Contest Studio.
I think just one last point for me is, when you have your regular retrospectives or your conversations, your water cooler moments, whatever it is, you may be talking about, we're not getting work done, work's spilling over, this might be happening. And a lot of the reasons might be down to some of the things that this
100%.
exercise could draw out. So I would say, if you're a brand new team, try and do this as early as possible. If you're an established team, but you've never done anything like this, do one as soon as you can, because again, there'll be things that you haven't noticed that might explain some of the frustrations that you may have with outcomes being delivered in your team, right?
It's communication.
Yeah.
And you don't know unless you talk to each other that these things are a barrier potentially. So, we've done a great job, in my opinion, of filming this episode. It's been tough, I think, from a kind of expectation point of view. It's not something that's normally talked about, like you say, so well done, both of you.
Thank you very much. I think it's a good point to end that on, and that's it. We've done 3 episodes.
Let us know what you think as well. Anything that we've talked about in this show, if you agree with it, disagree with it, if you found it insightful, if you thought we were talking nonsense. That's the exact kind of feedback that we need to hear. So hit us up on LinkedIn, hit us up on YouTube, wherever you're watching
zoomed in
this.
massively to myself here as well.
Cool, I think. Is that us done, boys?
Yeah, yep.
As well.